Welcome to Podnutz, episode number 39. We're joined with Mike Smith from the Mike Tech Show, and he's joining us this week. We're going to talk about consulting. And thanks, Mike, for joining us this week.
Oh, hi. Thank you for having me. I'm glad to be here.
Cool. All right. Well, recently, Mike, you started doing consulting full-time.
Yes.
And,
matter of fact, a year ago to this day, actually.
Yeah, and it's not something we've covered on this show. We mainly go into like computer repair techniques, computer repair business things. But this is something that somebody who is in the computer repair field, like consulting, is something that they might have an interest in either now or in the future, and to use their skills to actually make some money doing that. So I think you were the perfect person to talk to about this.
Yeah, it's scary. And that's the hard part is getting started and making the plunge, taking that first step, which I refer to as, taking that leap off the cliff. And to do that, it's a very scary proposition. And one of the things that I was worried about, can I make enough money first to pay the bills? And can I do this full time? I was very fortunate, though, because I was already consulting part-time on the side, which we've lovingly referred to as the pizza techs,
Yeah.
which started debates all over the place. But what I would do consulting after hours when I was done work and on weekends. And I had some clients that knew exactly what my position was, that I'm not available during the day and they want to save money on a reasonable rate, and they can wait till after hours for me to be able to do something. So they were very small to medium-sized businesses, financial advisors, little shops, little small companies. A couple of them had servers, one server, and I would help them, but only on when they had a problem. So it was feast or famine. I could go weeks with no work on the side, but then some weeks I could be overwhelmed where I couldn't even handle it all myself, and I actually had to get a friend to help me out, to take over some of the, help me out with some of the work because it was just too much. So I had a good relationship with actually an engineer who worked for me. It was very good. And
so
then,
you had a full-time job while you were doing
yes,
that. Okay.
Yes. See, so that's the nice thing. I had full benefits. I had my nice salary coming in. It was great. So any of the money I made, it was extra and on top of what I was doing. Plus I had the podcast. So I was very, very busy, and it was hard I had no free time and very, very little family time at that. Cause if your free time's being filled up consulting now, the family time keeps getting reduced and reduced, but I was making nice money on the side.
Well, let me ask you this then, Mike. Was this money you were making on the side when you were doing consulting, did it ever kind of put a light bulb in your head that said, well, maybe I could do this full time? Because at least doing it part time, how much money can be made doing it, right?
Yes, I did think about that, but I always worried that it would never be enough to sustain full time, or at least right. I thought it was.
Okay.
Because I would have to wait until someone would call me, and I always knew when you're waiting for someone to call, that's different. You're not making regular income, so you don't have something that's coming in, and that's what we're going to get into. How I had to turn the consulting business from waiting for someone to call to developing a revenue stream that was regular and monthly. And that's what I've been doing. And I had to make that turn in order to make this work. And that's very, very difficult to do that. So I have my clients that would call, and when they had problems, and I would take care of it. Okay. And they would pay me right away. Some of them would write me a check right there. So that was nice. And I reported this, this was all, I did this. I set up a company name, and everybody asks, and that's the big question here. Everybody says, I have to get a company set up. Got to get an EIN number. That's an employee identification number. Yeah. And I have to do this paperwork. And what about insurance? And what about that? Forget about it all. Hear what I'm saying. Get customers, get work, get out and if you're thinking of doing this, get out and start fixing machines, doing what you want to do, and get out and do it and get customers. That's what I started doing for a while. And then when it got to a point when the money was starting to be enough that it could impact my taxes.
Yeah.
Or here's what really happened. A lot of that was under the table. But when I made enough money where someone asked for my social security number, that's when I was like, uh-oh, I got to give this company my social security number or my EIN. And I didn't have an EIN.
Right.
And that means they're going to report it. So now I got to report it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's when, at that moment, when someone's going to report that your earnings, that means I got to report those earnings. Now I had to go get an EIN number, and I had to make this a little more, we'll say, legitimate, where I'm going to, I developed MHS Consulting, got my EIN number, and started, okay, giving my clients that. And here's the magic number. It's $600. So if you're going to make more than $600 from a client, now not all of them, but they will want to report that because they're writing checks to you, and they want to say who they're writing those checks to.
Right.
So they need a number that they can charge that to. So that's what you want, that employer identification number, that EIN number, which is free. You just go to irs.gov and you can fill out all the information. You can get that number.
That's cool. Let me just talk about one thing, because you just really reminded me of this. I'm doing a podcast with a fellow called Thor Schrock, who has been on some past Podnutz episodes, and is great businessman. He has his own computer repair business, and we're doing a whole podcast about that called Computer Repair Business Weekly. We're in the process of recording them. That's going to be released in about a month or two for those of you listening. But the point is, as I'm recording these episodes with Thor, eye-opening things that he's saying about how to set up your company. Just that if I would have known before I started my business, I would have done it differently because, like you're saying, Mike, because of tax reasons. And if you're starting to make too much money as a sole proprietor, you're going to get killed on taxes. You're going to get clobbered on taxes. Right. And so we went over how to set up a corporation and when and if you should do that. And it seems like a really good idea, and it's not as complicated as one would think, but it really gives you some breaks. It makes your business a separate entity instead of it all coming back to you.
Right. And that's that LLC. And if you do that, that puts a layer, so you personally, your assets cannot be attached if someone comes after you.
Right.
They're going to come after the company. And this, you protect your personal assets. And that's one of those small things between sole proprietor